EP Legal is a very unique firm. Before EP Legal, they were all international law firms.
This is Mars, Marketing Director at EP Legal and owner of The Launchman. And I'm here today with Mr. Tony Nguyen, who is currently at his home. I don't know where you're at, actually, Tony. Where are you at? In the UK? Where are you at today?
In London at the moment.
Today, what we're going to do is talk to you guys about video, and specifically the power of storytelling in video. So this is really about video and how we think about our videos, so that they really connect with people and people watch them. We're getting really good follows and subscribes and views on our videos that we're putting up right now, mostly using AI. But this is about video on the whole and the power of storytelling. What we want to show you today is, why do you want to use video and use storytelling? It's about relating the facts. But if you're in front of a tribunal of 3 people or a jury, or in any of the cases, depending upon what environment you find yourself in, even talking to your team, there's a lot of stuff that using story helps with it, because when you have to communicate complex ideas, simplifying complex concepts, and building trust with potential clients or team members or whatever, capturing people's attention, viewers in the case of online, standing out in a crowded market where people are just delivering facts and including some actual stories, and then educating about technical issues like legal issues, and then of course humanizing. Those are the reasons to actually do it from a psychological standpoint, a social standpoint. But really it comes down to growing your business, which has a lot to do with your team, your clients, and making money. People buy more when you tell stories. A lot of people mistake the human brain as some sort of a calculator or some sort of a memory machine, and it's horrible at memory and it's horrible at calculations, with the exception of 0.001% of the population. What the human brain is great at is receiving stories and storing things in story format, like the format of a Hollywood movie or a book or a video game or that type of thing, but also in transmitting stories. So the way that the human brain is designed is it can take a story in, and then if it's in story format, it can retransmit it in story format. So Tony, tell me, how did EP Legal start? Okay, how did you make it successful in the first place? And then also, how are you managing to keep it successful when really, it's a pretty tough market right now? What's your secret sauce? What's the story?
The myth of EP Legal, in a sense, is about our expertise compared to the other international law firms that are doing the energy-related works. We are very, very small, and we come from a third country, which is underdeveloped. So generally, people like our clients will not use small law firms to do very big multi-million dollars job. Why do they use EP Legal? Because they use the person that they are very familiar with. They know many, many years. That's why all the partners of EP Legal are from the oil and gas industry. We have 3 partners, and they all work in the industry for 20 plus years. So that makes us stand out, because if they choose a magic circle firm with hundreds of partners, they are all around the world and they do all the things. But the clients don't know them, but the clients know us, because we have been around for decades and we have always been a good friend of them. That makes us stand out. We understand what the client do, and we help where the client needs. For example, in the oil and gas industry, in Vietnam, there are about 16 to 17 FSO, FPSO, the floating vessels, and we work for about half of them. So half of these projects are done by EP Legal or with EP Legal assistance.
Tony, as an attorney, one of the top attorneys in the world, an international attorney, how important do you think simplifying things and building trust and so forth using story is?
Let me give you an example. One of my clients is in the energy industry. So she is interested in talking about the energy stuff. She kind of difficult to understand all the details of the procedures in the legal proceedings with a lot of technical jargons. It is very important for me to be able to transform the information that we have in a technical way into some more simplified wording and more familiar with her. So I use the examples of well, you have a contract, you have disputes, and this is your partner in the energy JOA or JOPSC. Now you have a problem with your neighbor, something like that. So by the storytelling, I make her a lot easier to gradually get educated about what I know that she doesn't know.
A lot of people don't really understand story any more than people understand a logo. They think if the logo just looks good or it's technically the name of the business or something that's good. But actually what a logo does for your business is similar to what story does for your communication, because a logo essentially communicates to the other person very quickly how you make decisions, right? You look at it, and if the logo looks stupid or it looks cheap or it looks like it doesn't make sense or something like this, then the person's going to go, okay, this person doesn't make good decisions, at least about who they hired for their designer. Or if they made it themselves, they didn't make a good decision if it's not a good logo. And that way, story is the same to me. Like, what you can tell about somebody from the way they communicate, specifically using story, is how good are they at making decisions. So in other words, if I have to imagine my attorney who has to communicate with a bunch of people, for me, right? They have to communicate with their own internal team that the attorney does. They have to communicate with whoever the opponent is for the client. The idea was, Tony was talking about some of the big firms that the EP Legal goes up against. And the fact that, somehow or another, they were able to, sort of like David in the story of David and Goliath, somehow win against those big firms. And so we wanted to simplify it. Instead of just saying we're a boutique international law firm that specializes in dispute and we can take on big cases and win, we called it in story form, which is sort of David and Goliath. So first thing we did was we storyboarded it, and we broke it down into the actual key beats that were going to be in the video. And then we took that and we developed it into the video. So from there, we actually put it into the story. So this is one of our approaches. In other words, we turned it into a video using the approach of storyboarding, which is ultimately the best example of knowing how to turn something complicated into a story. So the idea is to create a captivating storyline, right? And illustrate very intricate and complex ideas, demonstrate your expertise while interacting with the viewers, and ultimately highlighting in the case of a law firm, the partner's unique personalities, which is essentially what we did. So this being the transformative process that it is, from the unique storyboards, we ended up telling this story, going through the whole process here in the storyboards, and then all of that you'll see in the video when I actually play the video.
EP Legal is a very unique firm. Before EP Legal, they were all international law firms.
Normally a law firm video is strictly, a shot of the law firm, the sign for the law firm, shot of the partners maybe sitting at a desk and they're typing up some brief, or they're, on their phone talking to somebody or something like this. And we did all that. We absolutely did all that. The firm's point is speed, precision, and intelligence, right? And so because of that, speed, intelligence, and precision, we want that to be very clearly communicated, because essentially, if you think about the story of David and Goliath, it really is about a much smaller person using the idea of speed, throwing this stone across the field at this giant, being very intelligent about not getting in range of the giant for the giant to stab him, and then being highly accurate with that stone so that stone ends up hitting the giant in the head. I mean, and that really is the whole story, right? The giant ends up falling because David character uses his intelligence, his speed, and more importantly, his accuracy to basically knock this giant out. So you can see we included all the things that usually go in a video from a sort of traditional standpoint, where Tony looks like an authority here, and his partners, they look like authorities, and they look like they know what they're doing, and they look, and together they all look great. I actually think at the end of the video here, you can see them all kind of standing together in this configuration here. And I think, overall, it looks great, but the idea is we really wanted to quickly communicate small boutique firm going up and taking on the big cases in other big firms, and actually using the idea of speed, precision, and intelligence to win cases for clients, right? What's interesting is when somebody sees a video like that, it does show them, whoa, this firm is really top notch. They really think very deeply about what they're doing. Tony, when you're handling a case and you're negotiating for a client with, let's say, a tribunal as one of the world's top international arbitrators, cross-border dispute experts. How often would you say you weave story into what you're doing as you're explaining things to people to boil it down for them so that they get it? What do you say your approach is to doing it?
I think storytelling is not only applicable in marketing. It's actually a very useful skill for you to really impress anyone, including the tribunal in oral advocacy. So the way that you express things, including making examples, the real life examples, use similar concepts, but more familiar with the people who are your audience. So you need to understand the people that are in need of the information you want to transfer. And then you need to formalize the way that you make your message.
So we're going to talk about the behind the scenes here. So the legal and the creative team, you know, the storyboard process, content creation, and then the video editing. So essentially, if you think about the way the legal and the creative team have to work together, right? I had to sit down with Tony and say, okay, so Tony, tell me about the firm, right? And what's special about the firm and how is it differentiated from other law firms? And what he basically explained, and Tony, you can even expand on this, is that EP Legal is a boutique law firm. We have sister branches in offices throughout Vietnam and then Singapore and the UK. But it's not a giant, like, you know, hundreds of satellite offices firm, right? And so, first of all, we want to communicate that. We can give more attention to what your needs are and help you win your case and take your project across the finish line because we're actually small. However, we're intelligent and we're fast and we're very precise with what we do. So that was the sort of connection initially, right? And then we went into the storyboarding process, which I showed you already, and then developing the actual video itself, which is part of our content strategy. But all of the content that we put out, and we talk about this in our weekly marketing meetings, all goes to create a certain narrative, to tell a certain story. So like recently, we've been talking a lot about green energy and different political movements, ESG, right? So ESG, we talk about, okay, how can we tell stories related to green energy, related to ESG, related to topics that people are currently interested in, right? Because if your content creation doesn't match up with what's going on in the market, and then it doesn't land in your videos as part of your video editing process, you're gonna totally miss the mark. And sometimes we do miss the mark, honestly, and then we reevaluate and we say, okay, what can we do to really dial this in? And then Tony will say, you know, hey, I think we need to focus on this topic and let's talk about it from this angle. And then what ends up happening is it ends up as part of our content creation process and ends up in our videos.
My final thought is that every business, especially the boutique family-like enterprises, you will need to stand out in the market in a way that you make the story that touch people. By touching the people's heart, you will actually trigger their decision to use your service instead of the other like full service firms, better system with more like resources. Usually when a boutique firm is pitching the job to the client, you need to be smarter rather than bigger because you cannot be big, you are boutique. So storytelling in another way is creating a myth of your business. For example, how I started the firm, how this is very special firm compared to the others, and eventually how we end up with a lot of successes. So that is kind of making a myth that attract and touch the client. It's a key for their decision-making process. And that's a whole idea of storytelling strategies.
Before we go, I want to remind everybody, first of all, I'll say thank you for anybody who made it to this point in the video, but also make sure you like, you subscribe, you follow and all that, because we're constantly putting good content like this. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Tony, you want to say goodbye to everybody?
Yeah, thank you very much for watching, and we hope that this has been very helpful to you, and have a nice day ahead.